Hello everyone and welcome to the Community Corner, our weekly series where we talk about popular things in the community. Today I am joined by Nathan Mooney, Cameron Winston, lead hero designer, and wow, the v.40 release notes came out yesterday.
Woof.
It's a big one.
It is.
Yeah.
The Age of Intellect is here.
I really wish you'd gone with my suggestion from last week.
The Age of KL.
That was better.
The Age of KL.
I was a big fan
no
of
one
that.
listens to my marketing ideas.
Well, we
big
were
fan of
close.
that.
Look, we went through a number of things and we thought
The last two were Age of KL, Age of Intellect.
yeah, and it really came down to that.
Really
vote.
came
And
down to the
so
wire
it was like
there.
Yeah.
a new age. Yeah, KL. I mean, yeah, a new age could be a new age of KL,
Yeah,
right?
right.
But
intellect.
but a new age of being intelligent,
Yeah.
intellect,
All right,
sophisticated.
Right.
sure. I'll believe it.
There we go. So this week we're talking about these 40 changes. We also included some questions from community members like yourselves out there. So if you have any questions, please make sure to drop them down in the comment section or on the forums or on Reddit. So first question from Suflux.
Yes.
Suflux. Why isn't a competitive game mode out yet if the community is ready for it? P.S. Revenant is tip-top shape with style, balance, and kit. He's great.
Oh, well, thank you.
Good
I'm
job.
glad you like it. I personally made them all by myself. That's what happened. Wasn't a giant team of people. I'm sure the community is also ready for Monolith to have final art. The only
Yes.
problem is we're not.
Yeah.
So essentially, this is just one of those things. Like, of course, we want to have a competitive game mode versus other modes. Like, we kind of touched on this a little bit last week. But like, the major thing is like, you know, we're working on a lot of things. We have a lot of stuff planned for you guys, and this is just one of those things that's just in the pipe. We're working on it.
Okay, there you go. And then from iPlay, it's not really a question, but he wants us to talk a little bit about build diversity. And this is a great time to talk about build
Yes.
diversity because we introduce more cards that allow you to do some new things. So we have Spellburn, Spellvamp. We have increased some of the health, armor resistances. Stasis Gem is now universal.
Right, yes.
So there's a lot of changes here that allow you to have more build diversity. Can you talk at all about what you guys are trying to do or core goals that you guys kind of have with the complete 100% card rework?
So the goal is that, like, you know, in other MOBAs, like when you're approaching itemization, what you're really doing is you're saying, okay, like, you're not saying like I want, you know, crit or I want damage. What you want is you want, like, you know, the Blade of KL or, like, you know, Mooney Shovel or whatever the actual item is that does a thing. And so, like, you go, okay, well, Mooney Shovel is great for Muriels because they increase, you know, shield percent by 15%. I just made that up. And so, like, essentially you're like, okay, so if Muriel wants Muriel Shovel or Mooney Shovel, and it comes with, like, you know, I don't know, a bunch of mana regen and some extra mana and maybe some health or whatever. Like, those are the stats you just kind of get because you're chasing gameplay, right? And that's really the main thing. Is like right now in our itemization system, you just chase stats. And when you chase stats, you're like, the gameplay is kind of like a secondary thing. It's like, well, I could spend 7 points to this thing, but like I'm leaving my stats on the table versus, you know, essentially going, well, all in-game items are like really cool things, and we don't just let you build like, here's your, you know, here's my, like, essentially all Shadow Scroll Countess build of like nothing but damage and ability pen. Like, that's kind of unhealthy for the game. So like when you're trying to balance like a card like Hydroverser or you know, what is it, Infinity Stream against like, what if I did all damage? It's really hard to justify that a lot of times because like damage is sexy and it makes your numbers go up and people die, and like, so this is also contributing to like the feeling of like, wow, why do people like explode in the game? It's like, if you go with like a healthy average build of like a little bit of damage and some utility and some health, and the TTKs are way more normal, but like players have the ability to just sort of like metagame it into like, well, I'm just going to do all damage. And so the system is in and of itself unhealthy. It's also hard for people to understand. So as we're working on fixing it, the dream is, of course, that like you look at your build and you go like, well, certain heroes beg for different kinds of items, but like we kind of want items to be designed to be a robust item system that keys off the heroes, because like we said, I don't remember how many weeks ago, but heroes are long and expensive, and items are cheaper to make. So if we know that, like, hey, heroes are like struggling in this area, like, what if this guy could, spend money to get this thing, And then you have to ask yourself the question, like, what role is this hero? Like, if you're a Muriel, like, I'm not gonna, like, we can't balance Muriel assuming she gets, like, essentially all of her slots filled with the best items, because you're never gonna give Muriel that kind of farm. So, Muriel, if she keys off an item, it probably has to be like 1 or maybe 2 at most. Like, it can't be, here's my whole kit.
Or you're like investing to fulfill some deficit you have in your kit as a thing. So as a carry, you might invest in like a mobility item or something in place of the mobility you lack in your kit or something.
Yeah, like you get like a
or you double down on your kit. You reinforce it.
That's true.
Like with my boy Narbash, Master Narbash. Speaking of masters, Mooney.
Yeah, no, I'm very close this week, and I will potentially maybe have.
You get your second, right?
Yeah, the second one. Yeah, that's what I'm working on.
Master.
That's what I'm working on right now.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that build diversity.
No, I think it's very important what you touched on at the beginning, that you understand that I'm buying Mooney's shovel so I can dig the hole. The dirt is. Or the dirt's
tombstone.
The dirt's a bonus.
Tombstone
the dirt's
ability, right?
The dirt's a bonus.
You're talking about your
I'm talking about my tombstone. Yeah, so I buy Mooney's shovel so I can use tombstone.
Okay.
Yeah, that's really the kind of, so that's the idea of it. So essentially, like, a lot of these questions about, like, hey, how come the card system is not really what we want it to be, is kind of the generic overarching question that the community keeps asking, and the answer is because we're making a new one.
Yep.
It's going to be better.
Yep. And another question from Lost Maniac on the forums: what are the philosophies behind the Orb Prime and Raptors? What purpose are they supposed to serve, and what role do they play?
So when I read this, I initially thought he was asking, like, what do they believe in? Like, what do Orb Prime and Raptors believe in? Like, are they against violence?
They
are
believe in Agora.
Violence? Or they believe in Agora?
They believe in the power of friendship.
The power of friendship.
Yeah, because if you can't
Raptors stick together, right?
Yeah, and you can't defeat Orb,
Orb Prime unless you're together as a group.
or unless you have a lot of lifesteal.
Yeah.
Which brings us back to
like itemization.
Like, why can you do that?
It's
You know
all
what I mean? It's
circle.
like, so
All
the whole right. So anyways, the purpose of Raptors and Orb Prime is if you have a game where it's like the objective is this one overarching thing, which eventually you will do, then the game just kind of becomes run around the map and kill people until you eventually do that. And so the more impactful sub-objectives are, they kind of force fights. So if you kind of like think about the river buffs, right? What's the point of a river buff? The point of the river buff was to encourage mid players to rotate and make plays. It's not always taken by mid players, but like, 3 minutes happens. What's the thing you want to go to the river to get the buff? You've got to secure it, because if your team gets the buffs, it allows you. It's essentially kind of like who has control of the ball in a sports game, right?
Yeah.
If you get both the river buffs, it's like now you have the opportunity to make a play. Doesn't mean you have to, but you are in the advantage. So now the other team's on the defensive. Obviously, not as big of a deal as we got Orb Prime. Now you're really on the defensive. So essentially, Orb Prime is kind of like in terms of escalating goals, whereas the most minor goal is last hit a minion. The next goal is like get a river buff. Then it's like kill a dude, and then it's like get Raptors so you can accelerate your carry's farm. Then it's get OP so we can make maybe a potentially game-winning play versus actually win the game. They're like meant to be like steps on a ladder towards actually winning the game. And like I think for any kind of healthy MOBA, you want to have good mid-game objectives, and we're definitely not where we need to be yet. I mean, we're just sort of like, we need to have the skeleton of something so we can start building on it and making it better.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, and it's the thing of it's also the understanding of once you get in the game, there are trade-offs you're gonna make. It's like you're just like, oh, we missed out on the river buff. Is there a way we can like trade this off by like maybe jumping to one of those other areas on the ladder that we can try and supplement where we're lacking in this area? So like, how can we supplement this gap in economy that we have as a team?
Right, and I just have to I have to talk about Orb Prime real quick, because last week I mentioned Ta in this awesome game that we played, where we had actually taken Orb Prime. We were marching down Cameron's teams, like it was a done deal.
Yeah,
essentially the death march.
Cameron comes out with this awesome play and basically saves their team because he kills our FaZe, I believe, who you guys now know all about.
FaZe and Faye, both. We wrapped around and we got them both, and then it was just Chimera and a new carry.
Yeah. There you go. Do you hear this guy?
This guy.
Do you hear this guy?
Dropping the teasers.
I was playing that new carry.
Did
I was running too. I was like, oh.
He wasn't running fast enough.
No, it wasn't.
No.
So, yeah, that is all the questions that we have for this week. Getting into some of the changes on 40, we have changes to a lot of the cards. It's I want to say it's like 36 cards have been changed. We have 5 cards that have some pretty significant reworks in. We changed health value, armor resistances. Can you kind of talk to some of the armor changes and just the card changes in general?
So like we're trying to just, you know, like I said last week, like, you know, we do think that our time to kills are too fast. So we're hoping to, like, you know, slow them down a little bit, but like it's risky business tampering in this end of the pool because we don't, like, again, we don't have because again, it's not like, well, I'm going to build these 2 points of armor cards. It's like, what if literally every point of my build was armor? And now it's like, we just made it, you know, 10% better. Now you're just like, that multiplies about all your points, and now you're this like incredible, unstoppable tank. And then we run the risk of like, that's of course what you do. And now everyone's just got 3,000 hit points. And, you know, if you don't have 3,000 hit points, you can't even play. And everyone builds tank and lifesteal, and you just can't die. So that tipping point is so risky and damaging to the game if we flip it. So, but the goal of this change is like, let's try this a little bit for a while, see how it works, and with an eye towards, we're going to be making some more dramatic changes when we get closer towards fixing the problems we have in our optimization system. When we have the new, better version of it, and we know like, okay, you can as a player just decide I'm going to spend all of my economic budget on this one stat and just get perfect itemization. That's going to dramatically change like the balance of the game, both numerically and also the gameplay feel.
And whenever we introduce, we now have, I want to say 7 off the top of my head, new card mechanics. So we have like Spell Vamp, Spell Burn. We introduced Blight, which we had on Poison, but now it's its own thing. We had Quenching Scales with the heals. So each of these cards that we are kind of testing right now, they can in some ways indicate what will work and what won't work, or what needs tweaked for the major card rework.
Well, what we're trying to do is we're trying to put gameplay into cards, right? It's more fun to have a card that's like, it heals you and gives you health instead of just like regen and health, and just like, it's more fun to have, you know, things to either produce effects based on gameplay, or either you hit buttons and a thing happens.
Well, it enhances that RPS, which is like, well, I'm using a short form of the term, like rock, paper, scissors, where it's like, I'm using something to try and beat you, and then you're going to try and beat me with a thing that counters that, but you don't know that I don't have the thing that counters that. So it's that back and forth that you really get through the gameplay and the MOBA itemization. I wasn't sick.
Yeah, that was
Oh,
so
sick.
that right there.
Let's go.
That was the bad lane matchup right
Undefeated right now.
I'm not happy about that. I don't like losing.
there. You should have named it the Age of KL.
Yeah.
That's what it is. That's what it is.
Could have been your age.
There's more changes we have coming. There's a lot, just a ton of changes. We had some pretty big reworks on some heroes.
Yes.
One of them is this man's Master Mooney, Steel.
Let's go.
Before we talk about Steel, why don't we talk about some changes to the offlane?
Sure. Let's talk about some
Because
changes to the offlane.
this is huge. So we've known for a long time that the gold buff wasn't really doing anything. Like, he was too tough for the early game and too relevant for the late game. So we've turned him into a B.
Is that the official term? Is he a B?
No, but like he kind of looks like a bee a little bit. Like he's like what do we like? He looks like the river.
You know, like those big, huge bumblebees, the kind that you see.
Well, because he's gold.
Oh, that you're threatened by, but they're harmless.
But they're harmless though. You know those huge bees? They like fly around, and you look at them, and you like run.
Yeah.
And he looks like that now.
Yeah. So he's gonna have the same mechanics as the river buffs now, except he's gold. So when you kill him, you're gonna get 300 card experience. Just boom, just like that.
Hey.
He spawns every 3 minutes, he's on the same cadence as the river buff.
Nice.
So there's a lot of opportunity for gameplay there. So remember we were talking about Kalari last week?
Yeah, that's right.
Sneaking up, backflipping onto the platform and backstabbing that and running away with 300 card experience is going to be money.
what you're saying is I should have that spot warded.
You probably should. Especially if you're offlaner as a Kalari, you definitely should have wards.
Up your vision game.
But I mean, but the major thing is like we're noticing a tremendous amount of more gameplay in it. Like, you're definitely more encouraged to have a carry in that lane, because carries can just show up and collect money. If your support is feeding because, like, you know, they're trying to create too much space for you, and like you need to give them a little bit of a catch up. You know, supports could just go double tap it and get money. Your jungler can come around and get money. Enemy junglers, if you get a gank in the other lane at the right time, if you time your ganks right, you can also collect their gold buff. It's like a 1-2 punch. It's like, you know, you're watching basketball accounts on the foul, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, there you go.
Hey. Anyway, so, so with that being said, Steel. Steel, I think, is going to be, 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 I think, is going to
Mooney likes to change us to steel.
Let's
He
go.
does.
Like, look at him.
We were in a playtest, and Cam.
It's the same playtest on what we
Yeah, it's
talked
the
about
same.
this
Yeah,
week.
I'm sorry. This is a very legendary playtest.
It was definitely legendary.
Yeah. So even though we lost, I had so much fun after that game. I just remember a specific moment that I had my ultimate. There was like maybe 4 of them, like 3 to 4 of them, and I was just like, all right, I know I got my my E's ready. I got like all my stacks of my armor.
But they don't know what stacks mean yet.
Well, they kind of do.
You kind of, I mean, you get the understanding in the patch notes, but like we can go into it later in this week. You guys will kind of get more of a feel for it as you play the build.
When they play it, they'll
When they play,
they'll
you'll
have
get more
an idea.
perception. But so Cam is calling out to his team. He's like, "I got him. I'm gonna make the play." And then and in my mind, I'm thinking, "Oh, Cam, it is I whom going to be making the play. It's actually me."
That was a big turnaround.
And
I ate a steel ult.
Yeah, he ate a steel ult, and I was able to escape the combat. But I really enjoy like a lot of the gameplay that I get out of it. It really makes me feel a lot of, because you kind of going down the path, you get like that a lot of his old abilities, like you remember like those iconic things. You throw down that force shield, like you set up against that siege.
Oh, the force shield feels so good.
Yeah. Being able to move around with, so essentially with the design goal of that was like, look, we wanted him to be able to move around with the shield because we felt like giving him a longer duration shield that he could control and kind of like walk with his team
Yeah.
made it like we could just make it last longer because it wasn't just like I'm going to drop the shield and leave.
Before you're just like, here, let me just
Yeah.
try and stop. This is just siege stopper. Whereas like now it's like I can do that and more. It's like an N plus kind of thing. So there's more. It may not be inherently like, oh, this is just better now.
Right.
It's a thing where like now it may be slightly less like accomplishing the job it did before, but now I get a diversity of things I can do.
Yeah.
And you can kind of like move with it, which makes it a little bit better than it was before. But the big change is the ablative armor. So we said, okay, look, you're a guy that, you're a tank, you're in the front line, you're just sort of like trying to block shots. What's the counter to that? Is like, well, I'm going to just drop big, magic burst on you,
Yep.
right? Like to do some ability damage. So he's got those stacks of ablative armor that make it so that even though when I was playing a high burst, caster kind of character, and it was like I was supposed to be shooting for 400, I was hitting for 60. I was like, I can't hurt this guy, and like but then there's a lot of counterplay to it, right? Because if you have like a character that like Morgesh that can just like tick off lots of stacks of armor, it's like, well, this guy's you can strip the armor for your teammates who have the big hard hitting nukes to try to burst him down, but it does make him. You really have to figure out how to play around him now. Like he's of course always got that ult and that charge, which makes him.
I was definitely trying to play the hero move a couple times there that game and just like dive in front of people, like just throw my body.
There was a couple really, really awesome plays I played with that new carry, and I had this one play, memorable play for me, knocked some people down into Mooney, and Mooney was like, alt, and it was just great.
Oh my god, that play! Oh, I just remember what that was. I actually just turned. I stopped playing, and I said Kale's name like 5 times until he looked at me, and then I was like,
He was like, "You're the man. You're making plays." We still lost.
Yeah, but it was a good game though.
Yes.
But that's the steel changes.
And then I mean, there's so many changes we could hit on this.
Oh, and by the way, real quick, we're still expecting the steel to always be a really good support, but this is really going to help him as an offlane.
Oh,
as
the
an
offlane, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And that's
'Cause you
where I
actually
played it. That's
him
where I played it,
in
offlane, yeah, because that was my initial thought is like, he felt like he really, because you kind of saw people drifting more into that offlane role, like when he was, even when he was like, still getting a lot of competitive play. And that feels like a lot more natural to me. I, of course, will still try to play him in support role, but like I was loving it in the offlane. And before I used to be pretty staunchly support. So
because like if you're sitting there and like your verse is like ability damage support that's just peppering you with ability damage, or like you can just sort of defend against a lot of the burst.
Yep.
So, anyways.
And then we have Murdock, which. I feel like this is one that we kind of talked about quite a bit in terms of community reception on this. It's a change where, again, this is me kind of taking some of what you've told community team. It's like, hey, his kit is one, and especially some of the older heroes are ones that need more definition. They need to have defined kits.
Yes.
Can you kind of talk about how this change to Murdock moves him further into that?
So essentially, like Murdock as a hero was one of our original heroes.
Yep.
The game that he was made for, like, I mean, it even predates Legacy. Like, I mean, we're talking like ancient times. So he had a lot of kind of abilities that just sort of he kept because there was no time to really look at him. But like, he's never really had a cohesive kit. Like, he's had this, like, he's got these mines, but making those work was always like, well, they last too long, they don't last long enough. Like, how do we make them place? He's got this like shot that lets him wave clear, that helps him do his own damage, and then he's got this knockback. But it's like he had like tremendous amount of kind of like self-sufficiency, which is never desirable for a carry. But also like he had one of the coolest, most fun ultimates to shoot.
Yeah.
So we kind of wanted to double down in the sense of like, okay, like we want Murdock to be a approachable shooting-based carry. Like we think the best thing about Murdock is like, you know, shooting people across the map with your sniper shot and like lining up shots. So like we wanted him to be like, you know, he's a space cop, right? So we wanted to kind of double down on like, this guy's a space cop. He shoots you with his gun, and like that's what we're gonna make.
Bad guys.
And he chases bad guys. So we like, what are we gonna make? Like we wanted to kind of make it more about that. So like the idea is like, look, he can run down people now. He's got a little bit longer range than almost any other shooting carry in the game, and he's just all about shooting. So if you're like, you know, kind of like we've been talking about this whole like, you know, positional versus execution mastery. This guy, we're trying to double down on, like, he's about shooting you. He's about landing shots. So if you're a guy that likes to shoot things, like Murdock's, you know, going to be one of the carries that you're going to enjoy a little bit more.
Shots, yeah.
Yeah, and then like, and you're still going to always have that ult, and like you know, he still has all of his wave clear, and the knockback is just more controllable now. So it's not like just get out of for jail free.
Well, no, and it goes back to what you were talking about, I think on the last week's corner, or maybe it was like just earlier, just understanding like the role that like some of these support systems, these itemization that it fits in your kit. Because like, you know, if you do have this like, I'm self-sufficient, I can kind of operate in my own space on my own, and you're not really relying on the other people in your team, it's real, it tends to be, you know, uncomfortable.
Yes. So I I pulled something up because
Kale, I'm not going to listen to your mixtape.
I'm not, Kale, please.
Some of you guys know that I put out like a couple of raps, and I'm working on one for Murdock.
Are you?
That goes into this.
So is this going to be fire?
It's going to be fire.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hit me with your fire.
It's take me down under, right into the Badlands, hot pursuit, catching criminals real fast, man. I brush the filth away and put them in the trash can.
Oh, God. Let's go.
That's hot fire, though, right?
Fire.
That is hot fire.
Is it fire?
Yeah, dude.
I'm not a judge. I can't say. I'm going to leave it to people who are more qualified.
That's just the beginning, guys.
That's just the beginning.
Bars.
Last but not least, new hero, FaZe. We teased her last week. This week, we get to talk a little bit more about her. She's a hero, and we actually teased her multiple times on the show. Yeah. But she's a hero right up Mooney and I's alley. It's just like I absolutely love playing FaZe. Yeah. There are so many plays that have been had internally that I'm very excited, especially for some of the players that play in groups or teams and competitive play. Some of the plays she can pull off are absolutely amazing.
Like you guys know I got the FaZe plays for days, right?
The FaZe plays for days.
That
Bars.
can go in your rap.
Bars.
Oh, come on. Yeah, maybe I write a FaZe rap. Maybe that happens. No, I think that she really fits like I remember when Cam, when we were first talking about FaZe with him, he was like talking about her as if like the support, and that kind of like really resonated with me.
Claria support is what I always say.
It's like that really resonated with me because it's that like high mechanical mastery on this character, and that allows you to shine.
It's one of those heroes that like your friend's gonna lock it in, and if you're coordinated with them, it's like the kind of plays that happen are just like you can do just aggressive dumb stuff, and like the FaZe just saves you, and you're like, well, you know, and so like it's really hard to play around unless you can take out the FaZe. So like if you don't have a team comp that can actually address the FaZe, lock her down, and kill her, like you're gonna have a bad time because like you can't go on the guy that's linked. Like you just can't. Like he's not only is he getting, you know, health, he's also can just get pulled away whenever you get him out of position. Like even if they're stunned or whatever. So you you got to deal with that.
It's a lot of
game changing. Game changing.
Interesting.
Not only do you when you think you have them. This is what's great about it, because I actually saw it in game when we were playing. When you hit that blind and it transfers to your teammate, and you see someone like attacking like an enemy player trying to hit them, and they're just swinging all over, you're like, you just got that.
And you see Murdock like just jump shotting in random directions. He's just like, I know I got him somewhere.
It's so satisfying. Yeah. It's so satisfying.
You're hoping you hit, but like, I mean, you know, hoping is all you can do.
Yes. So we will talk more about FaZe on Monday's developer live stream. All focus on the FaZe. We have some great community folks coming out for that specific dev stream. It should be a very, very good time. We hope you guys enjoyed today's show. And until the next time, we will catch you all later.
Bye-bye.